Welcome to the official podcast of HE-MANIA.com. We have the power. I'm your host, AJ, and today we're doing something a little different, rather tonight. It's called HE-MANIA Late Night, and it's an offshoot of what we do normally on our podcasts, with our traditional interviews and topic-specific discussions. But today will be less structured, more abstract, and more raw, and just feature two people having a nice conversation. It could go light, sometimes it could go serious, often over a potential drink, and I'm holding one now. And who better to kick this off than with social media influencer, toy hunter, toy collector, and all around possibly the nicest guy in the toy collector community himself, star of Mega J Retro on YouTube, Jay Ban. Welcome, Jay.
How's it going, brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Now, Jay and I have been kind of like circling this like sharks in a way. And I've been looking forward to, get to know him. And, since we kind of put both of our lives to some degree out in the public, I figured why not get to know each other, not just as Motu fans, not just as fellow collectors, but as people, just with thousands of people eavesdropping, of course. So I figured it'd be fun. Jay and I were just talking off screen, and he was saying that, I was saying that I have gin here, and now I'm going to put the gin down. I also have coffee. That, normally his drink of choice is Coca-Cola, and I'm a Coke Zero guy, Jay. So I do that because of the calories, and but I know it doesn't taste as good. But I'm sure there's like a lot of poison in there.
There's poison everywhere, brother. But I always tend to say that I'd rather poison myself with natural sugar than whatever the heck they're putting in.
Yeah.
It used to be what was it called? It used to be NutraSweet, then it became aspartame, and now God knows what it is, like Celesta or whatever the heck it is. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's not natural. And like I said, I'd rather go with the devil I know. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, you're right. Sugar is an actual plant, right? It's from the sugar cane. So, but I think the latest one, stevia, is from it's a leaf. I think that's from a plant.
Yeah, I heard it's a sugar. I heard it's a sugar derivative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something like sugar, but again, I like the taste of Coke. I like the taste of sugar. I don't know. I can just there's something still. Coke Zero. They say it tastes exactly like Coke. It doesn't. It is close. I will give it that, but it's not. Yeah. It's not nearly close enough.
There was a sweetener that my wife would always use until like I read the label. I'm not going to say it, but on the label it was these. It actually said has been determined to cause cancer in laboratory animals. It didn't say may cause cancer. Mm-hmm. It said has been determined.
That is not a good thing.
And I'm like, honey, put that pink packet away. Yeah, what the heck are you doing?
That is not a good thing.
It is not a good thing. But you know what? Not many people read the little label there, nope. or as we have toys and stuff, read the directions. It's funny as a and I know we're going to get into some Masters of the Universe stuff, but as a kid, when I used to collect Masters of the Universe, I just ripped open that package and I just chucked that mini comic. I mean, I had no interest in reading that mini comic when I was really young. It was just going to get in the way of me playing with that toy. Mm-hmm. And those mini comics were really interesting because those mini comics weren't traditional comics. They had the picture and then they had a big paragraph to read on the bottom. It was a lot of work, I think, for a little kid.
Well, I mean, the first two comics maybe were like that. But I think afterwards they went to a more traditional panel structure.
Yeah, I think later after the later series came out, the later waves, it was an improved comic. But in the beginning, it was actually more reading than looking at pictures.
Yeah, it was more like a picture book, more like the Golden Books, actually.
Yeah. So we almost got together you I don't know, maybe about 4 months ago, 5 months ago, you extended me a nice offer to be on one of your podcasts. I think you were having a panel to discuss He-Man.org and the fact that He-Man.org was closing. And unfortunately, my wife was very ill at the time, and I appreciated the invite. It was only a few hours notice, and I had to take care of my wife, so I had to pass. So we were actually going to meet there, but so I actually missed that episode. That was a really somber time. I would have loved to participate on that because He-Man.org was a big part of my fandom. And I assume I wasn't able to watch your episode, but I assume it was, a part of yours too.
You know what? It was just this. It was an opportunity just to try and get some understanding from multiple fans who were around during the time, or because the truth is, as with anything in life, a lot of us end up moving on to different things, right? Like a lot of us ended up going to Facebook, a lot of us ended up going to other social media platforms, but He-Man.org was definitely one of those constants that just continued to resonate with multiple He-Man fans, and it still was. And it would have been, even to this day, a resource for many, research laden, projects, right? For the longest time, you'd see credits in multiple different documentaries and, videos citing He-Man.org, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be on Netflix, whether it be on Hulu or any other productions. A lot of times they would actually go and use He-Man.org as a resource to research that. So many of us just got together. It was a last minute thing. It really was. And I do apologize for, I do this to a lot of people. I just basically spring a whole idea. Hey, you know what? Let's do something really quick. And most people are pretty gracious about it. Some people are pissed off. They're like, you can't do that, Jay. And I'm like, sorry. But with the closing of He-Man.org, it was just one of those things, it just happened. Right. And yeah. I wanted to get a fresh perspective on what people were thinking at the time. So it was just one of those things.
Jay, I think I took it for granted that it would always be there. After being there for 20 plus years, I thought it was just going to be one of those bedrocks in the fandom. And then even if the current owner, Val Staples, ended up hanging up his cleats, someone else would take over and it would always remain, kind of like a public library, and a new manager taking over. So it was really quite a shock that it was closing down and that we only had a week to process it. We had 7 days to say our goodbyes, and it was definitely a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I get all the reasons why it happened, and be honest with you, Val Staples reached out to me. We had some conversations afterwards. When He-Man.org closed down, as pretty much to honor the legacy of the site, we have a community forum. It's a nice community forum. It's nothing like He-Man.org. Nothing will be. But I ended up putting up this little badge that said, He-Man.org alumni, and allowed our members that if they, originally were He-Man.org members to kind of click on this badge, and this badge would always show with their name as they're, posting in the community forum to show that they were once part of that legacy. And then if you clicked on that little link on the badge, it actually took you to another page that was like Val Staples' farewell speech. And his closing statement for He-Man.org. So he reached out to me, and he was just terrific. And he said, what a nice gesture. And I really appreciate it, because it'll sort of keep the legacy alive, as I guess the baton is being handed to other websites. And, but still, it was still a jarring pill, so abrupt.
Yeah, it was just there wasn't any real warning.
Yeah.
And it was hot on the heels of the announcement from Val that PowerCon would actually be postponed for a year, right? Held back, and that kind of was like a double whammy. You know what I mean? The fact that both not only were we going to lose PowerCon for a year, but we actually lost, HE-MANIA.org, an actual huge resource, and one of the main reasons why, PowerCon actually existed in a lot of ways.
Not to be a conspiracy theorist, you think that's connected in any way? It just never dawned on me.
Not really. Well, I think in so much that that Val has a lot of things, other projects on his plate,
Yeah,
and he's got to concentrate on those things. So, in so much as that goes, maybe there is something to it. But as far as anything else goes, I don't think so. I think that it just happens to be a coincidence, because I spoke to Val at length, about 2025 for PowerCon, and he already has extensive plans on how to roll that out. So HE-MANIA.org, as much as he loved it, and he still loves it, right? It's just another one of those things where his time is better served elsewhere. Earlier in the year, in 2023, the actual site went down for a number of days, and a lot of people were alarmed at that.
Yeah, that was a couple weeks, I think, it shut down.
And I was I was speaking to a couple of other guys, right? And it was just a sign of what was to come, and Val kind of explained, in multiple posts that the backups, are infrequent, and it's just becoming harder and harder to maintain the site. So many people offered to take it over, but it's how do you give up your firstborn child? You know what I mean? You can't, right? So it's definitely one of those things where Val's probably looking for some sort of, I don't think he's ever going to give the domain up, but he's definitely looking for something or someone or a group or something like that he trusts. And I have no inside information on this. I feel that that's what he's doing. He's looking for somebody else to really take up the mantle, as you said.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a previous owner prior to Val. This is way, way back. But it really wasn't the site we knew it, So Val, did a lot of work on that. But, but the rest of us are trying to, carry the torch as best we can. Actually with foreternia.com, I got one of the and probably the best compliment I ever received in the fandom side of things. And I was a forum member named HE-MANIA in our community. And the only reason I remember this is he just, when that was all happening and there was this mass exodus, and I was getting some extra signups and stuff like this. And I'm always I'm always putting up the news and stuff like that, and trying to build up the community. HE-MANIA said that I was really the Procrustes of the community right now. I don't know if you know Procrustes. He was the god in Eternia with 4 arms, and he was inside Eternia, a god holding Eternia together.
Yep.
And it was the best compliment in the world. I'm a knucklehead, I don't think I deserved it, but it was so sweet to me that I always hold it in the back of my head. I'm trying, I'm trying in my little corner of the universe. I'm no HE-MANIA.org for Eternia. That is not HE-MANIA.org, but I'm trying, and it was nice for him to say. And I think we're all doing our part. You cover so much Masters of the Universe. It's not all centralized now, it's a little broken up in these Facebook groups and Reddit and stuff, but we're still there, and there's still areas you can go, and it's really like the best community in the world.
Yeah, I mean, like it just like in a community, there's a lot of great people who inhabit this massive universe community, but they're always going to be outliers, and people who are making it more difficult for others to enjoy. But for the most part, it's been a great community to be a part of, and we're all just really sharing and our collective love for Master Universe, and it really is a great time right now. 40th anniversary going on to 42.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's pretty crazy, right? So, it's where we have been to where we were. I mean, Master Universe was basically dead, twice over, after Classics, and no one was picking up the property. Everything was pretty much up in the air. And then all of a sudden the rumors and the whispers and Super 7, right, picking it up for a little while, right? It's come back multiple times in different iterations. And now, we'll get one more crack at it, right? That's the goal, right?
One more crack, as in television property, a movie,
as in an anime, as in a cartoon, as in a media property. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get and of course that is what drives Mattel to create new figures, right?
Yeah.
Whenever there's a lore, you could argue that New Eternia might be that avenue, right? But they really have to put together a lore. You know what I mean? It's fragmented right now. New Eternia is so fragmented. Every time a new character comes out, you find out that Mechanic was a Submariner. You're like, what? Where did that come from? Like, he's got of course, you can link the idea of his periscope type of head, but then you get really weird with his monocular, being his mace. It's just these little weird ideas that come out of designers' heads, and it's like, no, like stop. You know what I mean? Just like stick to the original story, like change it a little bit, whatever, right? But you have such a wealth of different stories to draw from. I mean, a lot. Arguably, you could start moving into the anti-Eternia He-Man. I mean, that has huge potential, massive potential, right? And the German audio novels, so many things which you could do, which you could actually pull from. So it's really weird that they're creating a new Eternia now, which again, it's a creator-owned property that it's an IP which they're able to draw inspiration from, but at the same time, put together a lore, put together a Bible, put together something which we can all take actual canon from, right? Don't just make this up on the fly, because if in the latest couple of figures they've released in Masterverse, it's starting to feel like they are just making it up as they go along. It's kind of ridiculous.
Well, if you read the Masterverse comics, or if you read the Masterverse comics that was written by Tim Seeley, it looks like these new Eternia characters, not all of them take place in the same universe. The main crust of the story was Sorceress and Zodak who were contemplating the worthiness of He-Man, and they were looking at He-Man across multiverses. So they were looking through different, windows in Castle Grayskull. So necessarily where you see one new Eternia character might not exist in a universe with another new Eternia character. It doesn't
even that's kind of fragmented. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're going to start selling an idea to a rabid community of fans, you can't just cherry pick from different multiverses. I mean, this is where Marvel and DC are starting to get in trouble. When one character dies in one Earth, they pick another character from another Earth, bring him into the main timeline, and basically he never really died. It's a different person, but he's basically the same guy, right? Which is ridiculous, right? Because that person did not live the same life that the other persons did, right? So it's one of those things. Now you could argue that they're all going to bring them into this one Eternia, and then all of a sudden they have to create this story around it. But you know what? Instead of having the Sorceress and Zodak peer into multiverses, like, make up story. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people like structure. People like the whole idea. And again, if you're going to do this multiverse idea, why not just go ahead and introduce the idea of the anti-Eternia He-Man coming in and trying to destroy all the multiverses, right?
Well, we had that before in He-Man and the Masters of the Multiverse, which is a great comic by Tim Seeley. But I think the original concept, the original idea behind New Eternia was not necessarily to establish a new universe, but was its original concepts. The idea was they were going to pull from original unused concepts
Yeah.
from the figures and create new figures based on those unused concept art, or concept art that was in the middle of the character we now know and love, and to implement some of those old ideas and create new characters. So I don't know if that was ever their intention. So I can't give Mattel like too much of a beating on that. And in regards to like, this is a new universe. I don't know if anyone's really trying to string all those bios together and try to make something cohesive, because it really doesn't appear like Mattel is. I think Mattel is just pulling from that old concept art from like Mark Taylor and creating figures out of it and saying, hey, this is what it would have looked like if, we went with this original idea, this original concept.
But if you're going to do that, then, why not state that in the back instead of actually trying to write a bio? Because now you're actually establishing a canon under the New Eternia brand, right? So now you're saying that Randor, actually had a fleet of submariners, and Mechanic was one of them. Again, it's just this thing. If you're going to reboot a property, arguably, I think that Netflix did not reach its audience with He-Man and the Master Universe, which is unfortunate, because that actually was a pretty good show. In my opinion, I actually, I was hoping that they'd have a final season. They didn't, right? And they were trying to do something. They were trying to do something different. Arguably, the character designs didn't jive with everybody. When He-Man and Skeletor, power up, it's that Johnny Bravo kind of look, and you're like, what the hell happened, right? I think that really threw a lot of people off, because nobody else looks like that in the whole freaking universe. Nobody looks like those two do. You know what I mean? Everybody else sort of looks normal, right? And then you have these two hulking beasts, which are like fighting for the power of the universe, and they look completely different than everybody else. It was just a jarring situation. Of course, when Beastman powers up, he does his little thing. When I guess Trapjaw, when he started to power up, those guys. But it was one of those things. But I really enjoyed the idea that they were really digging into Havoc. You know what I mean? That was a really good idea, and then they brought it over to multiple iterations now. Yeah, I mean, it really is too bad it didn't reach its audience, because it kind of suffered the same fate as New Adventures. You know what I mean? It never really got its final moment.
So I enjoyed the show too, but I think for many fans, it just strayed too far away from the original IP, the original brand, like New Adventures. It was just too much of a leap for some to take. And I got nothing but love for anyone who couldn't go there. I mean, I particularly enjoyed it, but what I love about this property and this brand is I love that this is the one brand that I think its strength is its multiple, iterations. That, I've been in other fandoms where it's like this one canon, this strict canon, and anything outside is fan fiction. And then sometimes a book is taken out of canon that no longer counts anymore, or no longer applies. But here we have so many continuities, so many universes to play with. You like the 87, movie? Playing that. You like New Adventures? Playing that. You like the Revolution continuity? Playing that. 2000X, the comics, and just like the new CG Kids show. So I think there's something for everyone. And this is the only brand, the only IP that can keep changing the universe and generally be found beloved by, I think, the majority of the fans. And even if they don't love it at first, like New Adventures, or maybe like the 1987 movie, it eventually grows on them, a sense of fondness and a sense of warmth. And then you just pull them under your wing and say, wow, I love all these different iterations and I want figures of all of them,
I mean, like, yeah, there's definitely that, but you are definitely going to get your division, you know what I mean? Because some people just do not like New Adventures at all. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
I can respect it to a certain degree. I actually don't mind the animation style. Some people are like, this is ridiculous. And I think that as long as you stay within, a specific canon, most people are okay with it. But if you're going to stray further than I think people are expecting, which is what happened with He-Man and the Master Universe Netflix and Netflix DreamWorks, She-Ra. I think that there's a part of the fandom which basically is like, that's not my, and actually to the same level, Revelations and Revolutions, right? There's going to be a part of the fandom which is basically like, nope, this is where I draw the line. That's it. I'm not going any further. And we're seeing that a lot now with Revolutions and Revelations. There are people who are basically like this is BS, and for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Like rumors or misconceptions and just fake news, just in general, right? A lot of things which people were spreading around never actually happened. A lot of things did happen, right? But that's because early scripts were leaked. You know what I mean? And it's funny how people sometimes take this as like, oh, they had this plan from the beginning, but they pivoted. You can't pivot in animation.
No.
It's not really that easy to do. You can't just grab a bunch of animators to get into a room and say, oh no, we got to rejig this. You can't do that. You know what I mean? It's not that easy, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, they changed this because the fans were upset. No, that's really not the way it works, right? And
the funniest one was when they suggested, or some people suggested, but I got nothing but love for them, but that Andra was supposed to be He-Man in Revelation Part 2, but because of the fan outlash and outrage, they changed it somewhere between July and November.
That was never going to happen. That was never going to happen. It was very obvious to me and a lot of people how, like, oh, they killed He-Man. They didn't kill He-Man. Yeah. It's such a trope. It's such it's such a trope in multiple religions, right? I'm going to call it like that. I'm going to say multiple religions have the ascension story. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it is, right? And because of that, it's a theme which resonates with so many different people, right? The fact that somebody sacrifices themselves to save the people they love, and then is given the gift of and a chance to come back and do it all over again, right? That is such a common theme in multiple religions, and because of that, we have Adam, ascending, because he did earn his prize, and now he came back, and he's once again the defender of the universe, right? And sadly, but that could change now, right? The canon can change again because, spoilers ahead, what happened at the end of Revolution, it's basically a big reset. You know what I mean? Like Adam has another chance to ascend, if you will, right? Because the rules have changed, right? I mean, we had the sorceress who I thought would have been up there and disappeared. She ended up, tethered to Grayskull. Who knew? Again, these things, these opportunities are changing, and it's great because new stories have to be written. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. If we stuck with the same old story, right, the same monster of the week, the same Skeletor has a new plan to hatch on him, it would be a boring freaking story, right? I mean, I watched all the Filmation episodes. It was hard. You know what I mean? As an adult, it's hard to watch them. There are certain key episodes which are absolutely amazing, which will stand the test of time for forever, including the sword, the stone, the Secret of the Sword. Secret of the Sword will always be a great show because it was written and well done, right? And you can watch that movie over and over again; it still actually holds up. But many of the episodes, I mean.
There's some tough
the whole circus episode, the whole the Christmas special, they can only live in your memory as fond memories, and then when you actually see them, it's like, oh god, right? Same thing with Thundercats. Thundercats, as much as I love that property, it is hard to watch some of those episodes. It's just painful, right?
But I tell you, some of those Filmation episodes are still great.
Yeah.
The ones
I said as much.
Yeah, the ones with Granamyr
really, really resonate, right? They really resonate, right? The problem with Power. Yep. What an incredible episode!
Yep.
I watched that episode and you just realize that they were trying to teach kids something. They were trying to teach us that you cannot take for granted, the things that you think right? If you're given a responsibility, it's your responsibility to do that thing right, and to uphold those principles, right? And the fact that Adam chose to give up the power was so deep. Now it's interesting that the sorceress was right there and allowed him to make that choice. That was crazy. I mean, to throw away the sword like that it just kind of the whole plot of the episode was kind of out there. But it's instead of taking it in trust for the next hero, you think that that was what would happen. But no, he tosses it down the bottomless pit. It's crazy, right? It's just crazy. But again, it was just to set up a wonderful story to tell kids about, and teach them lessons.
So when I said this community was great, and you pushed back a little with the outliers, right?
I'm not really pushing back.
Well,
I'm just reminding. I'm just
added it with.
Yeah, we're just remembering that, not everyone's going to agree. You know what I mean? Not everyone is their own person. They have their own opinions. So, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah. We can all exist. We can all exist.
You know what? I generally love this great community. Even I know there's some wild ones out there, and I got nothing but love for everyone. But pretty much generally, I've had just a great experience with them, and they've really accepted me with open arms. And you know what? They've accepted me with open arms. Secret more than the content providers. Without mentioning this some names, some of them, I think there's this old school kind of like gate. The ones that have been doing
gatekeepers?
Well, no, I mean, there's been some content providers that have been doing it for a very long time, and I think some are not as receptive as people who are newer to the game, I think, and I notice aren't as friendly as the community itself. So I'm not all of them, no, and I'm not going to mention who, but some are great. But the community itself has just been fantastic and open arms. And I've been part of this community since the beginning. I was back when the internet was just like dial up. I used to go on Busted Tunes Filmation website and stuff like that. And so I've loved this community from the beginning. Yeah, you're going to have people angry and outliers and stuff like that, but I think you get that in everything. You get that in Star Wars, you get especially Star Wars right now. But Marvel, DC, right? There's always just these constant battles, and every time there's a new property, someone's getting pissed off about something, and I think that's typically unavoidable in fandom. But this, out of all the fandoms that I've participated in, this is the one that I felt is the most warm and embracing. Actually, you would know more than me, right? Because I'm dealing with Masters of the Universe. You deal with more, right? You deal with G.I. Joe. You deal with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with many different fandoms. So what would you say, without disparaging any fandom, because we're not here, which would you think was, in your opinion, is the most warm and embracing, I think, as a community?
That's an interesting concept. Honestly, I don't look at it that way. You know what I mean? I'm a glass half full kind of guy to begin with.
Me too.
So for me, I just like being in the moment. You know what I mean? I just like living in this thing, and because of my proclivity to accept things as they are, I get a lot of heat. You know what I mean? The way I speak about revelations and revolutions, people outright say how can you possibly think that? How could you possibly? And these are the same people who not even a year prior to that, they were like, oh my god, you have the greatest channel, whatever, right? There's always going to be that divisive line somewhere that's drawn, right? In terms of like a community which is the most welcoming, I find most toy communities to be the same, regardless of the status. I think the Motu community is a little bit more close knit, in so much that we really haven't seen Motu for such a long time, and now that it's actually rising to the surface, people are coming out of the woodworks to celebrate that, right? GI Joe, even though it ducked out for a decade or so, it had lasted like way longer than the Master Universe in terms of its visibility.
Yeah, the movies.
Yeah, Transformers has never really left. It's always had some sort of presence.
They're so lucky.
But there's always going to be toxic fans. There's always going to be a level of animosity in every fandom. You know, towards. I mean, you sort of touched on the idea that there could be some gatekeepers out there. You know, we'll call it, we'll call a spade, whatever, right? But not everyone plays well with each other. You know what I mean? That's just not the way it is. Some people just do not have the inclination to share. You know, quoting Diana, right? From Wonder Woman. Well, actually, it was Batman v Superman, but yeah, I think you're always going to find that a fandom is only as strong as the people who are in it, and you know, as quickly as a fandom grows, it can also collapse very, 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 very quickly as well. But it's those people who are truly passionate about these properties and these characters that keeps that passion alive, and that's why Master Universe has lasted the test of time, and people still talk about it to this day.
See, sometimes that's the way I see it. It's passion. Like, I got nothing but love for everyone, even the people who don't like me or aren't nice to me, whatever. You know what? I love you. And sometimes it is about passion. And I'll give you an example. And maybe after I give you an example, you can give me an example, because I'm going to bring up something that I've gotten the most heat on out of everything I reported on, right? The thing I once got the most heat on was when I reported that the show you just talked about, the kids show, the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe CG show on Netflix, was canceled. So I ended up breaking the news. Actually, a friend in my community turned me on to a writer on Twitter, and a fan had tweeted her. I think it was still Twitter at the time. It's not X. And the fan said, are we going to get a season 4, or is it canceled? And the writer said, I'm sorry, it was not renewed. And then the fan replied with all these like tears and crying people emojis. The writer of the show had a blue check. Everything was kosher there. There was no way to doubt what the writer was saying. You know, are we getting another season, a season 4, or is it canceled? And she says, I'm sorry, it's not renewed. So I reported on it, and people flipped out. I was called a liar. I was called that I was putting an article up for clickbait, that I didn't know what I was talking about. And people were just overall angry. But you know what it was? Because I was okay with it, because it was passion. It was people very upset with the news. You know, I think that's really what it came down to it, because, you know, you can't get any better than a writer saying the show wasn't renewed. You know, I mean, it's not like, yeah, you hear it from a source or a friend from a friend from a friend. It was right on Twitter, but people were still just so upset. They didn't want to believe it. They wanted a season 4 so badly. And I understand. When passions get high, people love this property. People love that show. And I think they were just reacting because they had so much passion and love for it. And it was such a heartbreak. So, you know, I kind of rolled with the punches. And then, you know, it was all solidified once we got that DVD where it said, you know, seasons 1 through 3, the complete series. And that solidified there was nothing else coming. But, you know, I think that's what it came down to it. So sometimes they can lash out. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, I realize I'm going to be the target if you're providing any kind of content, but I realized it wasn't personal, right? It was just a heartbroken, you know, at least that's the way I saw it.
Yeah. And as I recall, that young lady took the brunt of the criticism as well. I mean, like, I remember she had to actually, almost like a retraction. She actually said, you know, in not so many words, I don't understand why people are getting this twisted. And unfortunately, she had literally had to say, "I didn't say it was canceled. I said it wasn't renewed," which is, it's just a different way of saying that, right? But she sort of had to, just take a step back and let the chips fall, right?
I think she realized, how do I say this? She made a tweet, another one, and then she deleted it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a scary position when you're just talking to a fan and you realize you don't speak for the corporation.
No, and it's sensitive information,
yes,
right? Which really she wasn't supposed to divulge, right?
Right.
You're under an NDA, you're under contract. She could lose her job.
Yes,
you know what I mean. And because of that, she had to do a retraction, right? And she had to clarify. I didn't say that, right? I said this, right? And unfortunately, it amounts to the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
What she effectively said to correct the whole situation, I didn't say it was canceled. Right, and that was important.
Well, she said
said it wasn't renewed, meaning that there's still a possibility it could be renewed later.
Look,
right?
you have to look in the context of the question. The question of the fan was, "Are we getting season 4, or was it canceled?"
That's
and
right.
The reply was, "I'm sorry, it wasn't renewed."
Exactly, and that kept her in the safe zone for the most part. But no matter what, if your boss wants to come at you and say, "Hey, you just ruined." Blah blah blah, right? So she protected herself, right, and said what she needed to say.
She came back and said, "I don't know if it was renewed." She not even went and not just clarified canceled and renewed, but said, "I don't know."
Exactly, right? Because she's really not supposed to be privy to that information anyway, right? She's a writer, right? As far as she knows, I just didn't get another contract for another episode, right? And that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But just like anything else, like, don't shoot the messenger. Right, because it wasn't supposed to be something you were reporting on the news. Just like I get it, I also get the same thing. Half the time when I'm saying something which sounds definitive, or because my thumbnail looks a little bit like, oh, you're saying it's done. You're saying like I put up a I put up a video where I basically said these 4 characters are discontinued. And later on, it was revealed that it wasn't the characters themselves completely. It was just the complete box wave, right? But because of the way Entertainment Earth had written the press release, right, it made it appear as if that wave of characters had been completely discontinued. And it was also in the fact that so many people got their orders canceled, including mine. So I wanted to bring that to the attention of the community. And so many people, just like yourself, they were like, "You're foolish. You're full of crap. You're full of what are you talking about? Like, that's impossible." And I said, "Look, I showed the letter directly from Entertainment Earth, and this is what it says, right?" So I even had screenshots, right? But weeks later, it's people were like, "Oh, I can just reorder it. It's available now." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I went on my live stream and said, "Yeah, apparently they were actually just talking about the wave." The dedicated box waves. They're not releasing those anymore. They're releasing them individually in dedicated sets, like 2 per box or whatever, right? But you're always, the people just don't forget, or people choose not to forget. They're just going to hold on to that little hill and decide that's where I'm gonna put my gravestone. You know what I mean? Like that's how they decide to do, and that's fine. This fandom has a lot of fans and has a lot of people living in it, right? And it has a lot of people existing here. And if you want to live on that, little hill, go for it, right? And it's kind of lonely up there, but that's fine. You're welcome to come back down. We can talk. We can have coffee, right? Let's go. Let's meet up when Redemption. Master Universe Redemption comes out, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? They got to stop with these stupid titles, by the way. They got to get at least a little bit more. Revolution and Revelation are almost exactly the same phonetically. So what the hell, right? Come on, give me a title which I can remember. Because I every time I do a video about Revolution, I inevitably say Revelation. It's crazy.
Yeah, I wonder how many videos I didn't even notice, and I just like swap those. I know. But it'll be interesting. Maybe it's redemption. Maybe it's reunion. Someone else came up with something even better. I don't know, but it could be retribution. It could be a lot of things. I just hope it happens. I hope it is a thing.
Well,
We'll have to see how that goes. But
the reality is that when you don't have something, everybody wants it back.
Yeah.
Right? All these naysayers who are basically like, "Oh, it was the worst ever," Kevin Smith, blah blah blah, f this, f that, whatever. People were saying episodes 1, 2, and 3 were the worst trilogy ever made for Star Wars. Then all of a sudden, episodes 7, 8, and 9 came out, and everyone was like, "Geez, this is the worst," And I'd rather watch episodes 1, 2, and 3. And you know what? It's funny how the grass is greener on the other side. You know what I mean? When you don't have it, all of a sudden you want it. And that's how that works out. Look at Eternia, right? Everybody was like, "Oh, this is overpriced. Why the hell should I buy this?" And now it's on eBay selling for like 3 times the cost. And King Grayskull himself right now is selling for way more than any other Master Universe figure in history has ever sold for on the secondary market. Crazy.
Yeah. Actually, just the mini comic alone, Jay, is
and that's just
$200. It's sold.
That is just absolutely bonkers.
It is.
What I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people out there that collect just the mini comics, and didn't get in.
I'm surprised Modi hasn't gotten more traction. You know what I mean? Like crazy.
I guess because there's more Modis out there, or I guess there isn't really a definitive.
He's such a throwaway character. I think that's the problem.
Yeah,
right?
I guess so.
But he enjoyed his own little fandom for a while.
Sure. And I love that little guy, and I love Frogmonger too.
These weird off-wall characters, that probably would never have another day in the sun, but they got to shine for a little bit, and here they are, right?
Yep. So, we're talking about figures. Have you ever? I mean, you collect, obviously, right? We both collect. You can see right by. Yeah.
No, this is all. You don't see any. There's nothing. There's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here at all. No, there's nothing.
Well, that's what I mean. You and I are collectors, and some would, I think, falsely accuse us of being hoarders.
Oh, that's not false. I freely admit I'm hoarding all this stuff for my future generations, which will never come.
Well, so did you ever? I always think it's interesting, why we collect. Did you ever try to self-assess and figure out why you personally are built that way? Why you think you are a collector? Ever give that any thought?
Well, it's really funny. I live with someone who's actually the complete opposite, right? My roommate is actually, and God bless him, because he tolerates, this. You know what I mean? He tolerates this. I'd be on the street right now if it was anybody else, to be honest with you. But we've been business partners for years. We've been very good friends for years, and we went to high school together. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, and it's amazing how most friends can't actually be in business together. I've had businesses with friends and it's fallen apart every single time. And Core has always been there, and he's been amazing as a business partner. You know what I mean? It's just been crazy.
You see that. I'm gonna let you resume, but you see that often with live streams and stuff. There's always partners, and they always seem to break up. And it's but go ahead.
No, yeah. Not everyone's going to see eye to eye, right? And it just takes that one little argument, and it's over, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that we agree on everything. We don't. We argue all the freaking time. He has different views on life. I have different views on life, right? But we put all that aside to make the business work, right? And we still have a great friendship. You know what I mean? And that's a very rare thing to have.
That's
cool. And I thank God every day that we're still friends. But if it was anybody else, they would, honestly, I would not be in this situation, right? So I always am grateful that he tolerates this stuff with me. Now, I'm not gonna lie, he likes a lot. He loves G.I. Joes, right? He loves that. So it gives him an opportunity to relive those moments too, right? Because again, he gets to see them, he gets to mess around with them or whatever, right? But everything else, like Master Universe, he, even though he likes the Master Universe, he's like, every time he sees one, did you get another one? Oh my god! And then you know, all of a sudden, what the hell is that, right? Because you know, here comes Blitzwave Ultron, or you know, freaking 17-inch freaking tall giant robot, right? You know, here, and then all of a sudden he hears, I heard there's a giant Eternia playset out. I'm like, yeah. He's like, did you get it? I'm like, maybe. Right? And you know, and he's like, God damn it, where are you gonna put this stuff? You know, and I'm like, I got, you know, I'm setting up the room, and he's like, you've been saying that for 5 years. I'm like, I know, you know, and you know, again, it's just that type of thing. But again, it's all about, you know, understanding each other, and I really appreciate that. I really do. It's a godsend for me.
But why do you think you do it?
Yeah,
Like,
that, you know, that's a very good question. It's the way you're wired.
yeah.
And like I said, like he's the opposite of that. He's the complete opposite of that. You know what I mean? Like,
See, I've tried.
He doesn't believe in any of that. Like he believes in a very minimalistic life, right? Myself, it comes down to it really, you know. Okay, so the way I look at it, and I sorry, why don't you go first, and then I'll explain the way I think about it, because you have something that you're about to say. So
No. I mean, I've self-assessed. I mean, I was just curious. I mean, if you want to hear mine, it's a story. Yeah, I actually, you know, self-assessed to try to figure out why I was like this recently, and I was really giving it a lot of thought maybe about 6 months ago, and it really came down to, I think, control. You know, when I was young, I was a big soccer player. And it was because my dad, he was born in Berlin, Germany, and they're all about soccer there, you know, football. And so he came over to this country when he was 18. And of course, you know, once he had his son, he's going to, you know, raise his son on football. He's going to force feed him soccer. And, you know, so he did. And I naturally got acclimated to it, and I loved it. And I loved playing it. And it was all about it. I was all about it. And in New Jersey, I joined a traveling team, and we were really good. And we were like high up in the state, and I got to play in these arenas. I got to play in the Meadowlands, which you're in Canada, right? So Meadowlands is a professional football stadium, like NFL Giants and Jets and stuff would play there. And we got to play in Burner Arena. So we got to play in these real stadiums, and our team was really good. And then one day, my foot started hurting, and my heel started generating a lot of pain. And I started trying to play through it. And this was going into my teens. And it was just getting too bad. So I went to a doctor and a few doctors. And, you know, I really thought there was going to be a problem with my muscle or something, some tendons and stuff like that. And they're like, no, we did some x-rays, and there's a problem with your heel bone. That your heel bone didn't grow completely. It was like kind of, I don't know, hollow on the inside. I don't know the technical terms. And because you're running around like this, it's starting to create fissures, and it was starting to get cracks in the heel. And you're going to have to stay off your heel. And I said, you know, how long? And he said, 2 to 3 years, roughly. And it was like a total, you know, gut punch. And they got me a air cast that I could put on during the day and take off at night. And they gave me crutches. And then for the next 2.5 years, from my 10th grade, from sophomore to my middle of senior year, I was in crutches. And I couldn't play any sports or soccer or activity or gym. You know, I couldn't even walk down the hallways with my friends because I was so slow in crutches that The teachers would let me out of every class 5 minutes early so I could get there by time the second bell rings to my next class. So I couldn't even, walk down the hallways with my friends. And I was just really in a bad place. I was really angry and mad at everything. And I guess it showed because there was one day, I'm in English and a student comes in with a little slip and he gives it to the English teacher. And the English teacher says, AJ, the guidance counselor wants to see you. And I said, okay. So I went down to see the guidance counselor. I had a elevator key. I guess it was downstairs. And once I got to the guidance counselor, I was like, what is this about? And the guidance counselor said, we have more than one teacher that is afraid you're going to hurt yourself, or afraid that you're going to commit suicide. So apparently I was projecting, I don't know, I was really down and I was really projecting. And at that point, I thought I had no control over my life. I thought my life was over. I really could have used some some good advice or maybe a therapist or something like that, but I didn't get to it, or it wasn't offered to me. To fly off on the tangent. Am I going to fly off on the tangent? Sure. Why not? Real quick there, I could have used this story. There's this great story by it was a motivational speaker. I don't know his name, but it's about a Chinese farmer and his elderly dad. And they have this little radish farm and they have this like workhorse and they're just barely making by. And in one day, the workhorse that's pulling this heavy plow breaks from the plow, runs up the hill and runs away. And the son goes to his elderly dad in the house and says, Dad, our life is ruined. It's over. We're finished. We're going to starve to death. It's over. Our workhorse, he ran off. I can't pull the plow. It's too heavy. You can't pull the plow. We're finished, Dad. It's over, And then the dad says, I don't know if it's over. I don't know what this is yet. And he's like, what? And then the dad's like, I just don't know what this is yet. And then the next day, the workhorse comes right over the hill and goes right into the barn. And behind the workhorse comes all these stallions and they follow the workhorse and they go into the barn and the son quickly closes the barn door and he runs to his dad and says, Dad, we're saved. We have not only is the workhorse back, we have all these great stallions. And you know what? I could break them in. I can make them rideable and we can sell them and we can be rich. And it's a miracle, Dad. It's a miracle. And the dad says, son, I don't know if this is a miracle. I just don't know what this is yet. I just don't know. And the son's like, what are you, crazy? So the next day, the son tries to break in these horses. The horses are bucking and stuff like that. And he's on one of the horses and he gets thrown in a bad way. He lands on his ground, breaks his leg, compounds fracture, screams out his pain. The elderly dad comes and saves him and starts nursing his leg. And the son's crying and says, Dad, we're finished. I can't move. I can't walk. I can't work the farm. I can't work the workhorse. I can't train these stallions so we can sell them. We're finished, Dad. And the dad says, son, I don't know if we're finished. I don't know what this is yet. And then finally, they hear that night, they hear a thundering amount of horses and an army comes to their door and a general comes through the door and says, we're at war and I'm recruiting every able-bodied man to fight and your son needs to come to fight. And the father says, General, my son can't fight. He's got a broken leg. There's nothing he can do. He can't stand on it. He can't even farm. How is he going to fight? So the general takes a look at his leg, assesses his injury, agrees that he's useless to him, goes back with his army and marches up the hill. And that night, all 10,000 soldiers were killed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when I heard that story, I realized it's a good, you know, you never, when you're at your lowest low, you know, it's not always necessarily going to stay that way. It's important to say to yourself, you don't know what this is yet. You know, you don't know what the future lies. You don't know what the your long-term story is going to be. You don't know if a negative is going to turn into a positive, that your life isn't necessarily over at that moment. Your high isn't always going to stay as your high, and your low might not always stay as your low. And I could have used that as a kid, but to make a very long story short, I started collecting then, you know, and I think as I look back on it, I think it was because it was something I could control. It was something that I can conquer, something I can complete, you know, and finish. I can chase something and successfully collect everything, have it, position it my way, and not be an abstract failure. And so that's what I think happened to me. If I like did this like psychoanalysis of myself, that's where it began, and I think you know, that's where it's always been.
Well, I have to say that's quite an inspirational story. I mean, you know, going from where you were to your teachers identifying as you know, a potential issue to picking yourself up and just saying, "Well, it's not over." You know what I mean? Like, you know, after those 2 years, your leg probably your ankle probably got better, and you know, you wouldn't be playing soccer again professionally or anything like that, but that opened up avenues for other, you know, things in your life, right? You know, job opportunities and career paths. And look where you are now. You know, you're here, you're healthy, you're an avid collector, right?
Yeah.
And you know, again, a very inspirational story. Thank you for sharing, AJ. For me,
thank you for having patience.
well, you know, we had an extended break, and we still had a great, you know, conversation.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's because the way I grew up, I was fortunate to have a brother, and we're very close. We're very, very close. And you know, Dex is his tastes are similar to my tastes, and I think that helped a lot, because one thing about having a brother who likes the same things you do, like Thundercats, Master Universe, GI Joe, you know, all those crazy cartoons, we really, you know, gelled in that sense. Video games. So as we grew older, we can still appreciate those things growing up. I also am very fortunate that my parents, you know, were very open and didn't mind getting us, you know, action figures. I had a very, you know, my parents were very loving and very strict. They were very strict, but along with that strict nature, as long as I did what I was told, as long as I you know, followed my career path and you know, to what they would like, but they did give me the leeway later in life. But as long as I kept up my grades to a certain degree, because I was a terrible student anyway, but as long as I did my best, you know, there was always something that both my brother and I could share, and that was great, because we both liked the same things. It was easy to buy stuff for us. You know what I mean? We like Centurions, they bought Centurions. We like He-Man, they bought He-Man. We like GI Joe, they bought GI Joe. You know what I mean? That kind of again, it was easy. It was an easy thing. We could both share a pool full of toys. And that would continue to resonate with us throughout our college years and through our you know, our adulthood. And funnily enough, here's the funny thing about that. Like as it usually happens, after a certain point in my life, I actually stopped collecting toys. I mean, it happens. You know, you hit that plateau where my parents never stopped me from, "Oh no, you're too old for that." They never actually said that. I kind of, you have friends who aren't into toys, so you sort of, you know, go and do that thing. You know, you have that period of your life where that happens. I had that, and then I got into my career. I started working for myself and doing what I wanted. And then, with a career, with a job that's stable, all of a sudden you have disposable income, right? Which, you know, what do I do with this money, right? I buy a car. I move out of I move out of my mom's place. I go get my own apartment. I got my own, house, whatever. And then I'm like, well, what do I do now? And all of a sudden, something snaps, right? I went through a period where video games were the biggest thing. I went through a period where anime was my life, like my actual life. Like I was doing conventions. I was organizing conventions. I was organizing events. You go through these stages, right? And then, there comes a point where you're introduced to something which is completely life changing, right? Completely turns everything upside down. And back in 2019, everybody's life changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's life changed for just an absolute. The whole world was absolutely changed. And it was at that point where I was like, I need to get the F out of here. Like I was like being trapped for over a year and a half, in some cases 2 years. People like nearly lost their minds. They lost their sanity, right? Video games can only take you so long. Like communicating like this, like you and I are communicating, that can only do so much to you. You know what I mean? People are people. We need interaction with other people. We need to be able to physically shake hands. We need to be able to embrace each other. We need to be able to have these meaningful relationships. And we weren't getting that. So, I was sitting here watching anime or watching YouTube, because there's, all the avenues were gone, right? So all of a sudden I'm watching Pixel Dan one day, and I love Pixel Dan. I've been following him ever since he was on RetroWare TV and stuff. And, loved everything about it. And all of a sudden he comes up and he says, guys, you won't believe this. Real Ghostbusters is coming back with a Kenner-style Real Ghostbusters with the wands and all. And I was like, something snapped in my head, right? Because I had stopped collecting for years prior to that, right? And something just snapped in my head, and I was like, the moment I get out of this freaking house, I'm gonna hunt down those Ghostbusters. And 3 or 4, almost 4 years later, 5 years actually, it's coming up to 5 years now. Almost 5 years later, it's absolutely bonkers where I've come from and where I am now. Just absolutely ludicrous, right? And I've in this journey, right, and bringing everybody along for the ride, it's been incredible, right? I'm so grateful for the people I've met, for the friends that I've made. Meeting you, AJ, you know what I mean? Like this is what it's all about, right? And it stems from a longing of my childhood. It stems from remembering and not wanting to forget. That's actually been my entire YouTube journey. My channel first started as an anime channel, and it started as an anime channel because people had no idea that today's youth, they have such an avid abundance of anime. It's not even funny. Yeah. Back when I was getting into anime, I had to literally beg, borrow, steal, copy them off of Laserdiscs, bootleg things from Japan. It was an underground thing, very, very underground, right? It was like this secret thing that only a few people talked about, right?
When I was young, my first introduction was Akira.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
And that was groundbreaking.
It was.
That was groundbreaking, right? But that was the impetus of many things, and even that was fringe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can name off all the biggest headliners at the time. You know what I mean? You can name off Fist of the North Star. You can name off Akira. You can name off Ghost in the Shell.
Yep.
Right? To a much lesser degree, you can talk about Oroski Doji, which was like completely adult. Right, and that was the stigma that was associated with anime at the time.
Yeah.
And those of us who knew that it was more than just pornographic cartoons, right? We banded together and created a community, a huge community, and because of that legwork, anime is now prevalent. It's now in the mainstream. It is more popular today than it's ever been in North America, right? And that has a lot to do with the people who were in those shadowy rooms watching, sharing scripts and reading the English dialogue to each other because the Japanese, had not been translated. You
But
know what I
it's not just anime. It's all nerd and geek culture,
Yeah,
that used to
yeah,
be
well,
fringe.
exactly, 100%. You came from a community of sports minded, a sports minded family. You know what I mean? Football in Germany is huge, right? It's
Yeah.
absolutely massive. Your father got you into it, and you gravitated towards it. I guarantee you, or no, I can only assume that your friends were not the type to actually play with toys. You know what I mean? You guys
No.
probably got up. Probably got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, went to, showered, ate a little bit of breakfast, or not, maybe not even that. Headed down to the pitch and just played for like 4 hours before going to school. You know what I mean? Because, and I was into baseball. I tried to get on the team, and I was up at the crack of dawn. I used to go to practice and all that crazy jazz. I didn't make the team, but I knew that life, for a very small fraction of time. I can only imagine you going from age, well, I don't know what it was, maybe 7 or 8, all the way to high school, and you said junior high or sophomore or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
And then having that dream just stolen from you. Wow, like
Yeah.
that must have been life changing. And then what did you do? You gravitated towards something that you as and it's funny you should mention it, because in a He-Man documentary, I think it was the Power of Grayskull. Mark Taylor and so many other designers, they shared their thoughts about why Master Universe was such a big thing to kids. And one of the key things that they said was it allows kids to have control over something. It allows kids to be able to say, "I have the power." Right? And that was a huge moment for me, because I was like, I never really understood why I loved He-Man so much, but there was something about that phrase, "I have the power," right? And when She-Ra came out, the secret of the sword, right? When that came out, and the theme song said, "We have the power," that changed everything. And you know what? It's my sign off, right? It's what I live by. You know what I mean? It's the community's motto in many ways,
Yeah.
because we have the power, AJ. We have the power. And Pixel Dan says it. Everybody, it's that mantra, right? For the He-Man community. It's a mantra for the Master Universe community. It's a mantra for the She-Ra community, right?
So
Inclusivity started. People think inclusivity is a new thing. It's not. Inclusivity started when we decided that we can all share this collective, beautiful thing together,
well
and everyone was welcome.
that's what I mean. Everyone knows now. I mean, it's not fringe to know what a multiverse is. Everyone knows what a multiverse is.
It's become a trope. Like,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
it's a cop. It's a cheat. Just like what Hordak says, it's a freaking cheat. It's
But
an easy way to create stories that really, you can keep a legacy going forever, because you can reboot,
right.
like, a multiverse. It doesn't matter anymore.
But
You
my,
know what
my
I mean?
my point is that they that was only known among fringe groups,
Sure.
comic book groups and people like that. And you're right. You're right. There was, I mean, all of my friends played with toys and stuff like that. And a lot of my friends had Masters of the Universe figures. But once they grew out of it, you don't mention it. You
Mhm.
don't mention if you're still into it. You don't mention it anywhere, because there was a stigma attached to it. And
Yeah.
there was, even in regards to collecting, there was a stigma attached to it. Collecting stamps is fine. Collecting coins is fine. Sports memorabilia, very cool.
Sure.
But if you're collecting figures, there was a stigma attached to it. Like, what's wrong with it?
Comic books, anime, any of the geek stuff, any of the
Yeah.
fringe things that what are considered taboo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you're too old for that. You're too old to collect this. You're too old to collect that.
Yes.
Why are you still playing with toys, right? You could flip that script, but they say something else, right? Like, why are you collecting coins? Aren't you too old for that? No, because this accrues value, right? This coin with a very rare misprint stampage or whatever it is, this thing's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, okay, fine. I got a Boba Fett figure with a missile, which was banned, and recalled, which is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? If you find it in mint condition, right? Again,
it's very hard to flip that script, though. So
it's not that it's as you said earlier. It's not that it's hard to flip the switch. It's not hard to flip the switch, but what it is, what it is that there's a larger part of the society that still says, you know what, it's not cool to be a geek. But that's starting to change now. You know, with the acceptance of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the DC Cinematic Universe, being a geek, and the what's it called, Big Bang Theory, being a geek is kind of cool, right?
It is.
The problem is that will wean, right? Unlike sports, right, which everyone just accepts, unlike coins, which do have an accurate value, stamps to a certain degree is part of that geeky culture, but it's more of a respectable hobby, right? That's where that happens, right? And it's us in this community that need to keep each other safe, you know, that need to, and the worst part about that is, as with any group, the infighting is what destroys us. It's always going to be, we destroy each other from the inside. That's always going to be the biggest problem, right? And that's got to stop. You know, we just have to come to the realization we're all fighting over the same freaking things. You know what I mean? Like we all love this, and it's okay to love it a different way. You can love it any which way you want. Just accept it. That's all. That's all we ask.
You know, my wife, bless her heart, she'll announce like to anybody what I'm into, and sometimes I'm like, don't do that. Like she'll just love to throw out there. Do you know that AJ has a Masters of the Universe podcast? You know, and a lot of people don't know what Masters of the Universe is, and then some people recognize the Masters of the Universe as the phrase for, you know, the problem with the, you know, our global economy, that there's this 1%, you know, the Bill Gates of the people that are controlling, you know, governments with money and stuff like that. And those are the Masters of the Universe. And they're like, oh, you're doing a podcast about, you know, the problem with the financial,
it gets political, right? And
influence. And I'm like, no, it's a podcast about He-Man and Skeletor. You know, it's just so it's funny. It's sometimes hard to explain with people that still, you know, are not part of that geek culture. You know, it's just like, all right, I'll explain this to you. You're not going to get it. You're probably going to look down on me when I explain this to you, but this is something that I love. And but you know, bless her heart.
So it's funny, you know. I'm just one of those. Again, I'm one of those guys who doesn't give two rat's asses. I really don't.
That's awesome,
right? You don't like what I like. It's fine, right? Anytime anybody asks me, so what are you into? I'm like, you know, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. I love collecting toys. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, isn't that kind of childish? I'm like, well, you know, one of my play sets is worth $5,000 when I bought it for $600. Right. And then that sort of changes the conversation a little bit. They still don't get it, but at least they can accrue a value to it. Right. And that's how I lead into it. And then if inevitably, and this is where things kind of get really weird, because inevitably somebody will sort of say something like, oh yeah, he's also got a YouTube channel. And that is a weird thing. See, you have a podcast. Podcast is now becoming more acceptable, but it's still fringe. A lot of people are like, hey, you have a podcast?
Yeah.
What do you talk about, right? Like, you talk about politics? Like, you know, they'll say the snarky kind of thing, right? And then you say, no, I talk about toys. Oh my God. Who listens to you? Like, well, I got 10,000 followers. Yeah. Oh, really? You know what I mean? Like, once you start mentioning, is like, yeah, I get 20,000 listens a week, you know, on average, right? And they're like, oh, that's different. All of a sudden, when you start equating it to numbers that they can really, you know, grasp or can't grasp, all of a sudden they start thinking about that, right? And they're like, are you making any money off of that? Maybe, right? You know, you never really give them that information, but you're like, yeah, I make a little bit, you know, and you just keep. And the more you say something like that, it's almost like saying, you know, it's like a humble brag sometimes. You know, like, oh, this guy is actually, like, you know, he's not telling me, he must be making some sort of money, right? But the reality is that unless you're part of this community, unless you're in this community, you're never going to understand what we go through. You're never going to, you know, like, it's just like back in high school. You know, a lot of people don't know what it's like to be beaten up. You know, I mean, over the fact that you don't like something that somebody else doesn't like, right? There's some people who are just in the crowd, whether or not they were just born with, you know, with that charisma or whatever, you know, they just don't have that understanding that, you know what, sometimes you people just don't like the way you look. You know what I mean? Like you were playing basketball one day, or you were playing soccer one day, and you looked at a guy the wrong way, and he just wailed on you. You know what I mean? For no fucking reason, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't have that. A lot of people didn't play sports. A lot of people did not collect toys. A lot of people didn't do anything, right? And all God bless them, right? But for those of us who have that experience, we get it. You know what I mean? We understand each other, and that's the thing that as a community we have to remember, and that's something that people need to remember, especially those ones who basically, again, are sometimes they want to be the gatekeepers of this community. There's no fucking gatekeeping, right? Like, do what you want, man. If you want to, take that little slice of the pie and say whatever the hell you want, and shove everybody else out of the way, that's fine, right? That's fine. Do whatever you want. Say whatever you want, right? It's going to be pretty cold over there when the rest of us are over here. You know what I mean? Like you have your fans. You have the people who listen to you, and that's great, right? But I think you'd like it more where everybody else is, right? And have more fun. And some of those people on that side are still on this side. You know what I mean? They just don't talk about it. So
yeah, that's good. Actually, you started your YouTube channel a long time ago, though, didn't you? You started something that was like 8 years ago or something like that.
It's coming up on 10 years now.
Whoa, 10 years ago. Whew.
Yeah, it's coming up on 10 years now. But like I said, I started it as an anime channel,
right?
Because I started with the idea that I didn't want to forget these, classic anime that people that again. I started recognizing that today's mainstream anime is made for an American audience. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's very cookie cutter.
Yeah.
In my eyes. Okay. It's made to consume, right? It's back in the day before Dragon Ball Z, just took over everything. A typical anime series would be like 24 episodes and that's it. It's over. You know what I mean? And that was it. You moved on to the next anime series, right? Now you get 300 episodes, 700 episodes. Like, Bleach is coming up to like 600 episodes or something like that. It's just absolutely bonkers. Who has time to watch 600 episodes?
That's crazy.
I don't. Yeah. You know what I mean? Starting Bleach from the beginning, which arguably are the better episodes, it's crazy back there. Then you move forward to here, and you're like, how the hell did they get these powers? Where you're lost, right? And it's fascinating how that's come about. And I wanted to say no. There was a time where anime was great, like really great. They were telling stories with nobody else was talking about, and arguably they don't talk about it today either. They were talking about metaphysical ideas way before any of this crap that was out there today, right? And I wanted to put those into small bite-sized episodes to just say, hey, if you ever get a chance and you can ever find it somehow, check out this episode, or check out this series, or check out this series, right?
Do you ever imagine, though, that if you stuck with that, like how big that channel would be by now?
Okay, so I know what you're saying, and the answer is no, it wouldn't have. Okay,
really?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't have. No, there's my style of storytelling for anime did not work. Right? It didn't work because I was going for the wrong crowd. If I wanted to grow, okay. If I wanted to grow, I was going for the wrong crowd. I was going for guys like me, right? Like the 30 at the time, the 35 somethings, the 40 the 30 somethings to 40 somethings. I was going for those people, right?
Yeah.
But that was like we are a small community, very small, dedicated but very small. Yeah. And I'm not going to reach them because they're not looking to that anymore, right? I have to, if I wanted to do an anime channel, which I've considered it multiple times over and over again, I'd have to start doing reactions to, Attack on Titan, or I'd have to do reactions to One Piece, right? Or Dragon Ball Z Super, or this, what the kids are watching these days, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that ship has sailed, right? That ship has sailed, and I found, quite by accident, okay, that during the pandemic, my longing to relive my youth resonated with a hell of a lot of people. And because of that, I was able to parlay that into a different direction for my channel.
And all right. So let's flip that coin. Imagine if you were doing that 10 years ago. You'd have Pixel Dan numbers.
No, I don't know if I'd have Pixel Dan numbers, but I think that it's definitely it's harder now to grow on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is.
There's so much.
Here's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Myself and several other channels. How can I say this properly? Other toy tubers, right?
Yeah.
Who sort of started around the time of the pandemic, right? Again, for the same basic reasons. We're all more or less hovering around the same growth, right?
Yeah.
And here's a secret. Which I don't mind talking about. I'm an open book. I talk about everything. I don't care. I don't give a crap, right?
That's great.
Mm-hmm. Here's what I'll say. All of us are now growing at the same rate, more or less. Some of us are higher than others, which is fine. It's great. I'm happy, right? But a lot of us are basically now in that mode, right? Where we're growing at the rate we're going. If you want to hit the numbers that you need to hit, to elevate, right? Because once you hit about 10K, things start to move quickly, right? It's shocking how fast after you hit 10K things start to move. But then you'll hit a certain point, and then it'll just be a constant, get something out of your week kind of drive, right? After you hit 20K, things start to move even faster, right? And then it's my understanding that once you hit 50K, and then that's when things really start to move, okay? Mm-hmm. And then once you hit 100K, it's that barrier, right? That silver button barrier. But that once you hit your 100K, things start to move in different directions. Like you look at Robo from the Foosh, right? I mean, great guy. I love Robo.
Okay.
Now, obviously, he's moved away from him, and Veebs have moved away from the Foosh, right? Whatever happened there happened,
right?
And he's starting again. And the thing is that he's bringing his audience with him, so he's starting to grow exponentially one more time. It's going to take a little while for him to get past that 100K mark again, but he has every advantage, to get that high. And I'm really happy for him. The fact that him and Veebs are doing new projects again. But it's that kind of thing, right? Can I get over this hump and get to a certain plateau, another 20? Can I get to another 20K in another year? You know what I mean? Another year and a half, whatever, right? That, in a lot of ways, is not the game you want to play. You don't want to play the game of, can I get the next milestone? What you want to really play, I mean, I've learned this the hard way. What you really want to do is you want to make good content for the audience in your community. You want to make sure the people in your community appreciate the content that you're providing, right? And that's why I love Master Universe so much, because it's a property which has always been close to me. And as you asked earlier, what does the community you find is the most welcoming? By default, it's going to be the Master Universe community. But that, right. That's because I live in this. This is my world. I live here, right?
Yeah.
I love the G.I. Joe community, and even there, people are like, oh, it's toxic. Transformers community. Jeez Louise, I can't hear about toxicity in there so many times. Out of all the communities, I hear very little, rumble outside of what's been happening lately with Revelation, right? But every community has a good place. You know what I mean? You can live comfortably in any of these communities. You just have to know how to be comfortable. You know what I mean? That's really what it boils down to. Now, in terms of content creation and everything like that, if anybody if anybody wants to get into this, a couple of things. You better love this. you better love this and breathe it and eat it and sleep it, and this better be what you want. Because let me tell you, it's really hard to come up with an idea for something you don't love. Okay? So you better be in love with whatever it is you're about to go into. If you love shopping, it better be about shopping. If you love toy hunting, it better be about toy hunting. If you love Master Universe, it better damn well be about Master Universe.
Especially if you're covering the news, which I know you do, and I do on the site. And it was just like when the Masters of the Universe movie news broke just this week, I was actually lying down. I'm like, I'm done for the day. And then the news broke that
you gotta jump out of bed.
That they got the Bumblebee director.
Yeah.
And for me, it was writing articles, and I had to write 2 articles, and I have to type them up. And you do an intro in the middle, and then you do graphics for it, and then you spread them on all your social media channels. And next, it's a couple hours later, and that nap you were going to take, or that movie you were going to watch, you just sacrificed it.
Yeah,
so you're right. You better, and you yourself, you're not writing articles, you're doing videos for certain announcements, and you want to get out there, and suddenly you got to rearrange your schedule.
I mean, freaking Cyclone, right? Rokkon, right? Rokkon. Literally, freaking, what was it? 10 o'clock last night, Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
I get a ping on my phone. It said something's funny's happening on Mattel Creations. Jump on Mattel Creations. I see the freaking clock has reset. Right. I see that the like in my neck of the woods, cannot ship to your country. I'm like, what the right? Like seriously. And then I was like, okay, I could watch this movie like you said, or I can talk about this.
Right.
I damn well talked about it. Because people needed to know, right? Like that's because, and you know what? It's crazy because I got a lot of emails saying I took the day off tomorrow on Friday just to be able to order this thing, and people are pissed, right? And people, of course, people in Germany, people in the other side of the world, Canada, are like, are you freaking kidding me? We can't order this, right? And again, confusion, absolute chaos and confusion, right? I don't know what's going on with you seem to have a bit more, of an insight on that avenue of it. And we found out earlier this morning. It's like, we pushed it back, and no actual direction on whether or not it was specifically for any glitches that happened with the international shipping or whatever, right? That's still has to be determined. But
no, the official Masters of the Universe account on X actually announced, and maybe I could pull this up at least on my phone. They announced the reason why the Rokkon figure was delayed is because they cannot ship packages out internationally. And I'm like, what? Okay, so they lost the ability. Has this something to do with Eternia? And because they lost their deal with FedEx or UPS or DHL or whoever they're shipping international packages with, they don't want to offer Rokkon until they have another deal in place where they can sell it to international customers. I mean, this is all speculation, but let me read exactly what they said. So, Battle Armor Rhino on Twitter said, hey, what's happening? I thought this was tomorrow. And he showed a picture of Rokkon and tagged the official Masters of the Universe account. And Masters of the Universe said, quote, we are currently unable to ship internationally. So we have moved the sale to February 21st. So that is explaining we have moved the sale to February 21st because we currently are unable to ship internationally. So it sounds like somehow they lost some sort of shipping method and they're looking for other avenues, if I have to speculate a little. But that is the reason why they're giving that they. So
the terms of service with FedEx might have changed. Right, and not to their favor. It could be anything. Right?
It could be anything,
and it could just be that they're getting so many insurance claims from FedEx that FedEx actually said, no, we're canceling your. That happens too.
Yeah, and Eternia might have been the catalyst.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right, they're getting so many chargebacks, and it's not. And here's the thing: it actually is FedEx's fault. When the news broke that a lot of people are receiving these broken packages. I said from the beginning, I was like, no, this is a FedEx problem, right? Like this is a shipping problem. And all people was like, no, it's Mattel. Like and in some cases, I do agree that what they actually packaged Eternia in is not enough technically, because you look at the way Super 7 packs their stuff. They have quarter protectors on a box, in a box, and then there's the actual box itself, right? The actual collector's box, right? They do that. I ordered Snake Mountain that way. Beautiful, right? Hasbro arguably did the same thing with Unicron in a lesser fashion, but it was a very sturdy box. You know what I mean? It was the corrugated cardboard was immense.
Yeah.
And to a much more surprising, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, because I still haven't received my Eternia, but I received a Daiku Mario giant freaking Solo Chokugen 100 anniversary figure, and it came all the way from Japan. It's not exactly the height of Eternia. It's a few inches shorter, but it's basically the same width and the same thickness. And it came with barely a dent in one of the corners. Mm-hmm. How is something that came all the way from Japan able to do that on Amazon shipping and still arrive here in Canada, a world away, and not receive the kind of damage that we've been seeing with Eternia? So the way I'm looking at it, I think that FedEx is basically saying, no, the shipping was the boxes were inadequate, and we're putting the blame on Mattel, and Mattel's doing the pushback, and now they're arguing, saying, look, like we're not gonna like, they're basically saying, you have to provide better packages for us to ship out, so we don't get hit with all these insurance claims. Yeah, because that's basically what's going on. Like they're playing the name game. They're like, no, it's not us. You got to complain to FedEx, right? And of course, because of the customer service, people are calling in. And I want a replacement on my Eternia. Okay, box it up. We'll send you a shipping label, and bring it back. So all of a sudden, again, it's all about the insurance at the end of the day, right? Because each one of those return packages is a hit on FedEx or a hit on Mattel, either which way, right? Whoever is at fault, right? And now they're basically saying, screw you guys, right? And like, we need to take another look at our terms of service with you.
So I'll say I have my Eternia, and it was damaged, not the actual product itself, but
that's terrible.
The box had some damage, and I would actually put it at 50-50. I do think FedEx can, handle it with more care, but I do believe it needed to be a box within a box. I believe it needed a little more packaging. So some of that is on Mattel, and I wanted a pristine box.
Everybody does. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we paid $650 for that thing, right? Pardon my expression. Yeah. But the reality is that's a lot of money for a collector's item, which is no longer a collector's item. Yeah. You know what I mean? You've effectively ruined this thing, right? Yeah. My his tank came in more or less intact. My Sky Striker came in more or less intact, right? I'm okay with a small dent here and there, but an actual gouge in the box, an actual depression in the box, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not what I paid for. And you're always going to get those people online who are like, it's just a box. Yeah, for you maybe,
right?
And let me ask you something. Did you buy it? And 9 times out of 10 they said no, I couldn't be bothered by. Then what the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you paid the $650 and the box was ruined, I guarantee you'd at least be feeling like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not respecting my property. Right? You sold me something on this, and you didn't even respect it enough to deliver it properly. Right? There's the real crux of the whole situation. You are like, if this was in a store, I could examine it, I could figure it out, I can decide, yes, I want to buy this thing. Right? And if it's damaged, I would go right to the manager and say, hey, this is damn. I did that with let me take this down. It's funny, right? My Darth Vader helmet right here, right?
Yep.
It came in this. It came in this mangled box, which was from is from Toys R Us, right? And it's absolutely mangled. And they were selling it at full price. And I looked at them and I was like, "Are you out of your minds? You're selling this thing at full price, right? This thing's mangled." I told them straight out. I was like, "Look, let's open this up. If it's damaged in any way, right? Discount. I'll take it off your hands." They were sitting on this for months, right? Almost a year. they wanted to move it. So basically, I said, if it's damaged in any way, I want a discount. We looked we pulled it out, and it took a while because we were examining this thing. There's a small micro scratch right at the top of the thing. I said, look, do you want it off your hands or not? And they said, okay, 20% off. I was like, okay. Can you do any better? And they said no. And I was like, all right, you know what? It's already a decent price because it was already on sale. And then they said additional 20% off. So I was like, all right, fine. I took it, but same idea.
And some people don't collect or don't keep the packaging. They just chuck it, discard it, and so they say, what's the big deal? Don't be a baby. But you know what? Some people, the packaging is just as important to them. I love it. Is that... I was like, what is that? Now I get it. That's Vader. So can you wear that? You can.
Yeah, I can. For my head, it just barely fits. Barely fits. It's the choker that's the problem. The choker, it's really snug. It is really snug.
What is your favorite collectible? All right, I tell you what, favorite collectible, Motu, and then non-Motu. Or how about this? Favorite collectible 3 ways. Motu, non-Motu, and then a unauthorized collectible. Like a
all right.
Custom.
Okay, custom or KO or something like that. So for my Master Universe, I would have to say that my absolute favorite piece has to be the Stout Collection set, right? From Super 7.
The Rebel He-Man.
Rebel He-Man, Despot Skeletor, God Skeletor, and Crag? I can't remember.
Karg.
That's right, Karg. Yeah, that set is my pride and joy.
Wow. Okay.
I was always waiting to open it up. Always was planning on opening up. 100%. I was going to put them on display. Had a lot of fun with them. Never actually got the chance. And now, thankfully, right, we got the Masterverse He-Man and Masterverse Skeletor movie editions, and now the Masterverse Evelyn. Yes. Right? And arguably, they captured Frank Langella's likeness so well in this version, and completely dropped the ball on Dolph Lundgren's because they couldn't get his likeness rights. So luckily, Ramen Toy came around and produced their own version of the heads, and I have 2 of them out of the 3 that they produced, which is freaking amazing. A huge shout out to Ace over at Ramen Toy. That's my favorite collectible for Motu.
I had Eamon O'Donoghue on this podcast. He was
amazing.
Amazing guy. And he really couldn't talk about. He did the artwork for both the He-Man and Skeletor.
Yeah, I bought a poster. I bought one of the posters when I was at PowerCon. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And he kind of went into it and kind of went into it and just kind of skirted the issue. But he kind of implied that they were working on getting Dolph's like this, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, of course. He was at San Diego Comic-Con presenting for Mattel during their 40th with Pixel Dan, right? So I mean, he was in talks 100%, but they couldn't come to an agreement, right?
Yeah.
So
such a shame.
It's too bad, but there are other avenues. There are customizers out there. If you were lucky enough to pick up one of the Ramen Toy ones, beautiful stuff.
Yeah,
right. The non-Motu, out of my favorite ones, I'd have to say it's probably Thundercats. Like anything Thundercats, I love I bought the Thunder Tank. I love Thundercats is my second. After it's literally Master Universe, Thundercats, and it's a toss up. It could be G.I. Joe, it could be Transformers, it could be so many different properties. Gotcha. But in terms of like my number 2, my second collectible that I have to get into, it's definitely Thundercats. And then for a custom property or a KO, I have to say that it's probably going to be something like, man, how can I say this properly? It's probably going to be like a Masterpiece Transformer KO. You know what I mean? Like I love the Masterpiece, I just can't afford them.
Right.
That's just a full admission, right? I bought Unicron from HasLab, but I ended up buying the KO Unicron, which looks a lot better in robot form from Studio Cell, and it's just gorgeous. And I argue that the KO companies in China are doing a much better job than Takara in many ways. But then they bring out freaking Ultra Magnus Studio Series and blows everybody out of the water. Again, Takara can do great work when they really want to, but for whatever reason, the innovation has been coming out of China.
You know, to circle back though to your value of the collection, and I'll just bring up Classics Granamyr, if you can see what I'm pointing to here.
Yeah,
there, which I love that figure, and that figure was, I think, secondary market $500-600 now.
I know.
And then suddenly I saw all these like 3D printings of Granamyr, and it looked great.
Yeah.
And it was really painted well, and they were selling them obviously loose. And I was like, wow, this kind of stuff, the more 3D printers become acceptable in homes and stuff like that, that if you have like loose figures, they might go down in value because
that's nearly impossible. The collector market, the way it works is, and this is the thing, right? So let's look at it this way. Let me give you an example.
All right.
So we have 3 turtle vans on the market, right? 3 turtle vans on the market.
Okay.
6-inch turtle vans. We have NECA, we have Super 7, and we have a KO from Arsenal, right? And Arsenal was the cheapest, and arguably, in many regards, by multiple different toy tubers, probably the best one in terms of its overall play value, in terms of the price for the van itself. The Super 7 van took forever to come out, the most expensive one of the 3, but it has such amazing detail, paint apps, tons of accessories, right?
Yeah.
The NECA van is almost it parallels the Arsenal van, especially in the fact that it doesn't come with a hell of a lot of accessories, but it's almost comparable in price to the Arsenal van, right? So will the Arsenal van ever rise in value while the other 2 drop? No. And the reason that is because the collector market for collectibles is always going to go with official. Official will always be the ones that will rise in price. There is a caveat to that, though. There's a caveat to that. The caveat is if there's a figure that's never ever been created and only created as a KO, it's going to skyrocket. And then there's the caveat for Transformers for whatever crazy reason. Anything that's actually made by they're changing their name now, but anything that's made by a specific company. God, I can't remember the name of the company, but that particular company that's a third-party company.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, their figures always skyrocket in price because they're doing figures that Takara just will not touch. Right. A lot of the combiners are very similar to that. So
well, what I was explaining to you in regards with this Granamyr is you couldn't tell the difference. You couldn't tell. The 3D printing was just taking like mold, the exact same mold and reproducing it. And the only way I could tell it was 3D printed was this eBay lister was amazingly indicating in the listing it was a 3D print. But otherwise, I thought it was a loose Classics Granamyr.
I hear you, AJ, but once you get it, you know it's the difference. You like as long as you have an original copy to compare to. First of all, there's a stamp. There's a stamp at the bottom which says Mattel copyright blah 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 blah. That's the telltale sign because the other one definitely does not have that. It's a reproduction, made on a computer to be reprinted. Then there are the resolution lines, right? 9 times out of 10, that's always going to be the case, right? And no matter how good they can get the paint, you just put the original beside the other one, you know exactly which one it is. So the curators, right, the ones who grade this stuff, they know exactly which one it is. The price is not gonna. The price on Granamyr is not gonna change. Like but what will affect it? What will affect it is the fact that Masterverse is around. Now you have Masterverse to compete with Classics, and because of that will drop the price. If they ever release a Granamyr, which I hope, but I not only want the the Revolutions See, I did it again. The Revolutions Granamyr. I want my Potbelly Granamyr. Okay, and that will change the whole game. Like, it's already happened. A lot of classics have already started to drop in price because of Masterverse.
Jay, remember Revolution? There's no way you're going to get that in Masterverse scale. Like Granamyr, you saw how big that head was compared to.
No,
Evil
I know
Man.
they're not gonna do 1-to-1. They're not gonna do
They
that.
can't. That thing.
Even what's sitting on your shelf is not even anywhere near 1/6 scale, right? If you look, watch the Filmation cartoon. They barely come up to his ankle. They in the cartoon.
He's sitting down. I have his legs.
No. When he stands up, right? If you look at the very first scene in the Dragon's Gift, okay, he's standing straight up in his pit, and they're like this. They are tiny. So like what you have there is probably like half scale, if even that.
I don't remember them that tiny. I thought maybe like up to
look it up.
The shin.
No, look it up. Here. I'll bring it up.
Okay.
I'll bring it up because again, it does kind of mess with your head, right?
Yeah.
But no matter what, you look at Savage He-Man sitting right next to Granamyr. That's trust me, he's way bigger than that. He's way bigger than that.
I wonder if I could pull it up on video here.
Yeah, you probably could. Maybe he's the size of the mini comic. I can accept that.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see, Granamyr.
But even that, I mean, come on, his head. That's massive.
Yeah. So say
right.
Okay. So say his nose. I see. So say his nose went to the tip of He-Man's feet. Then from his nose to maybe the crown of his head would be the length of He-Man.
Yeah. And then you look at what you have behind
you. Look under here, these are the classic Club Grayskull like He-Man.
Yeah. And you can see right away if even if you take Prince Adam is not like his head. Think about it, Granamyr's head.
Well, his head is perched up. It's not pointed down.
Yeah,
like
but
in that picture.
Even if you were to grab him right now and try to put Adam there, he's going to tower over his head.
Yeah, I know it's not perfect scale, but it's a lot closer to reality.
Again, we're splitting hairs now, right? It's still the same idea. He's still nowhere near the size he needs to be, right? But that's fine. Again, he's a representation, and that's exactly what it is, right? And then, of course, you could just do straight comparisons like that. You know what I mean? Where you see what I'm trying to say, right? So,
well, that's Orko. But...
Yeah, but here's the other thing about animation as well. There is no such thing as a perfect scale in animation. They change all the time, right? I mean, look, you even look at this one, and this is more to your case.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
That's way more to your case. Again, it's hard to narrow it down. Right, it really is. But at the end of the day, he's supposed to be massive because then you look at this picture and it's like, what the hell? Again, the scale just completely changes all the freaking time. Those are the same people.
That's fair.
Those are the same people right there in that corner. Right, completely changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, there's no real right answer. At the end of the day, you have a freaking Granamyr. I don't, and I fucking want one. Like that's what it really boils down to. That's the conversation.
And the conversation is the Revolution Granamyr is huge. I'm going to pull up a picture.
He will be absolutely massive.
Who
is it? Eldor, Masterverse Toy Hunter. He's actually crazy enough to try and make one. He's actually in the process of actually doing it. It's nuts.
What?
It's ridiculous. He's massive. He's absolutely massive.
In Masterverse scale?
Yeah, in Masterverse scale. He's actually doing it.
So
I don't know if I can.
Do you have like the dimensions he's working with?
I don't know. Like let me see. It's so far back, but let me see if I can bring it up. I don't think I can. Like it was a few weeks ago. But...
Jay, look at this. Look at the size of Evil Lynn.
I know. That's
now, granted, she's kneeling, but still, that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing is going to be like 6 feet tall.
It is absolutely massive, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of things happening in the toy world, my friend.
Yeah.
Things happening in the toy world.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you think you'd be most teased about? You know, like I have like right here. I think out of everything in my collection, I have this thing right here in the box.
That's Last Action Hero.
Last Action Hero, Talking Jack Slater.
Yeah.
And not quite mitten in the box, but pretty close. And I think if anyone would come in and razz me about anything here, it might be Talking Jack Slater.
Are you asking like what's my absolute favorite toy of all time, or like,
no? I'm saying, is there anything like you think someone would razz you about?
Would razz me about?
Yeah,
people razz me all the time. Like, what you doing with all these toys? Like,
no, I know. I was just wondering if there was just one that'd be like, you got one? That? Are you kidding me?
Man, I think what you should be asking me is there anything like that's the wrong question to ask, because like people will razz me about everything. That is not even a question, right? I think the question you really want to ask is do I have a guilty pleasure? Is there something that okay, here it is, I found it. Right. Is there something that I'm not so there's the skeleton.
Wow.
Right? He's building it like it's gonna be. This thing is massive. Like look at those legs. Right?
Wow.
Like I think it's probably gonna be half scale.
Yeah.
But even at half scale, it's massive. It is absolutely massive. I mean, look at that head.
It's gonna make you one.
He's going for it.
He is going for it. Wow.
Well, reach out to him. I mean, like, he's all the way in New Zealand, though. That's fair warning.
Sure.
So, yeah, but he's going for it.
Wow. You know what? I'm always so impressed by the creativity.
Oh, me too.
Me too. People in this community.
Yeah. So, getting back to it, the real question is there? Do I have a guilty pleasure?
Yeah.
Or something that I would be, I would think twice. Do I have a secret figure that I don't really want anybody to really know about? I'm as you know, I'm an open book.
Well, I was too. I just showed you it.
Yeah. I love. But you're preaching to the choir here, right? So, is there anything that I'd be guilty to own, or feel somewhat guilty to own? I'm not just the actual short answer is no. I don't think I have anything that I'd be guilty of, but I think I have something which I would be not so much ashamed. I'm actually still proud of it, but it always makes me second guess myself if I want to tell somebody how much I spent on this one item. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the one that kind of always gets me a little bit, because it's like I'm proud that I have it because it's one of a kind. It's never going to be reproduced. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, Jesus Christ, I spent that much money on this thing. You know what I mean? Like that's
part of that. Spill it.
Yeah, it's my sort of omens, my custom sort of omens, right? Here, I'll bring it out. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It usually stays. I don't usually come up here anymore. I have guests in. I have guests over, so this is my pride. It is my pride and joy. It is, but I spent a god awful amount of money on this thing because I needed to have it just right. I could not let it go. So no other manufacturer can make this. They won't because they don't know what they're doing. So this is my Sword of Omens.
Wow.
It's absolutely 100% accurate.
Oh, look at
according
that.
to the illustrations. The only thing is that the jewels in the hilt, in the handle. I was talked out of actually putting them in by the swordsmith, because this actually is a forged sword, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it's tempered. You can actually chop, like people have chopped wood with stuff like this. I won't, right? And it has the Eye of Thundera on one side and the sword and the Thundercat symbol on the other. And again, it's a beautiful sword.
Is that sharp?
Huh? No. It's a virgin blade because I don't like. I take it to conventions every now and then.
Okay.
And I let people play with it, and I don't want kids to cut their tongue on it. You want to hazard a guess how much I paid for this thing?
I guess I'm going to be on the low end. $2,000.
That is pretty low. Yeah, that is definitely low end. One more guess, and then I'll tell you.
Oh man, $5,000.
That's a bit high.
All right.
I spent $4,500 on this.
Woo! You spent $5,000.
I spent shipping it over was about another $100, so for $4,600.
Wow,
right?
That's like half a car. Well, used to be. Wow.
Yeah, so.
Wow.
So
So
I'm not ashamed of this in any way, but I do take a double take sometimes, and people always take a double take when I tell them how much I spent.
jeez. Oh man, my you'd be reading about me in an obituary if I did something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like,
That's that, you know.
Some people are like, you spent how much on Unicron? You spent how much on blah blah blah? You spent how much on this? And I never say it, but I'm always looking at them like, you have no idea.
Wow.
You have no idea. When it comes to spending money on something, you have absolutely no idea.
Hey, well, if you got it right and you clearly have a passion for it,
Oh yeah,
why not? You know, I'm not going to criticize you, but woo, I don't think that's too rich for my blood.
Well, it was at a time where I had a really good, like, you know, I had a really good job, and I had disposable income at that point, like crazy, and I saved up for it though. Like I paid in installments, so you know, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, and yeah, I was very happy. He was very happy, and he still and you know, we both still are very happy with our purchase.
Did you? I must have missed that video. Did you put that on your channel?
No, that was like no, not really. I just talk about it. I don't really have, you know, a show and tell kind of thing. I never really did that. But.
You know, before we wrap it up, I gotta laugh. You caught me on that. It was so kind of clickbait. That Tila topless video.
So,
yeah. And I realized you caught like 1 million people because it was something like 75,000 views.
No, it wasn't that much. It wasn't that much. I think at last count it was like 45K.
Well, still,
I kind of feel bad about that too. Because Cobweb Collector, it's actually his video, right? Yeah. And I give him complete props in the video, and he's thanked me, you know, for the shout out and everything like that. But I do kind of feel bad about it in some sense, and I wish I could transfer some of those hits over to him. And I pushed as many people as I could over to his channel, right?
Yeah.
But I think his video hit 7,500 views on that, which is for his channel is great. But you know, I want to be able to help him more, right? But it's just those things, and this is one of those things where it really proves that with YouTube you have to be creative, and you have to, in a lot of ways, sometimes you do have to be clickbaity in that sense, right? Yeah. Because it's that whole idea, right? It's like it's not a lie. She's topless because you can remove the top, right? So it's technically not a lie. Right?
Technically,
that is the whole idea of the video, right? But the thumbnail, it comes up to here, right, just below where you can see the you know, the bustier, right, just below you where you can see it, and you know what? People are people, man. That's human nature is human nature. It's not just guys who are clicking on it; girls click on it too. Like, you know, it's just this thing, and like, oh my god, what are they showing? Who's doing this, right? But it sparks a conversation. People laugh about it. Some people like, how dare you? You know what I mean? And people don't even watch it. It's like, oh my god, this is disgusting, right? And it's crazy. It's like, have you even watched the video? Like, it's nuts. But it's just that thing. Thumbnails and titles are what win YouTube, right? And that's how that is. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It was intentional the way I crafted that video,
and it paid off. But 45K is not something to sneeze at, man. So
yeah, but it's again, and I do feel sort of bad about it, right? And I told Cobweb, I'm like, brother, you should, you know, do something like that. But he, you know, I guess he's not as brave as I am to put something like that on his channel. You know what I mean? Like it could have easily backfired. It could have gotten, you know, a community warning or whatever, right? But it's not enough. There's not enough there to warrant that, right? But again, you gotta play the game in the within the confines of what YouTube allows you to do, right? So
I cracked up when I saw that. So
you clicked it though, right?
Oh, I clicked it not to see any sort of plastic.
No, but you were curious. You're like how far did they go, right? Like this is because okay, so after I put out the video,
yeah.
Somebody in the comments said, "Oh, what's it called? Battlegrounds Tila. You can take her top off completely. And I was like, get out of town. And apparently, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but apparently, yeah, you can take off her top. You can take off her bikini completely.
No, I haven't tried it.
I think what you have to do though is you have to heat it up because the glue. I think there's glue on it. I think that's actually what happened, right? But yeah, apparently you can take her top off too. And this time there's actually nothing under there. It's so you can AJ, you can make a topless Tila video.
Yeah.
If you're brave enough to take that, off.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have a Elvira NECA figure that.
Yeah, but it doesn't have the same punch if it actually is supposed to be naked. You know what I mean? Because what's it called? I have a whole bunch of figures which actually do, go topless, like actually topless.
Yeah.
Any of the coffin figures, all their tops come off. You know what I mean? Like Red Sonja, I think her mom. I don't think Red Sonja actually maybe she does, but Vampirella, what's it called? Lady Death. All these characters, all their tops come off. So it doesn't have the same punch as a character who goes naked every now and then. It just doesn't have that same punch to a taboo character. Like, oh my god, Tila's top comes off. Like, that really gets the clicks. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you are brave enough to take off Battlegrounds Tila's bikini and just say,
hey, that'll be your next one.
The true topless,
I expect a whole series of these videos from you, my friend.
And the thing is, you can be clever about it too, because you can just blur out that section. Yeah. And just say, trust me, guys, this is real. If you want to see the real pictures, head over to my Instagram account. There are other ways to prove it, right? And
because with your actual video, you're like, oh, Tila, this is actually kind of tasteful.
But that's what you say. You say, oh, they were really respectful, even though they had to do this. But I understand why, because it doesn't look right if it's molded into the character. There are ways to spin everything, right? And you're not lying, right?
So I guess we ran the gamut, my friend. So do you have anything else that you would like to touch upon or add, Jay, before we sign off?
Not in particular. I will say that I'm working on a whole bunch of different projects right now. I partnered up with a local company here called Titan Toys, and they invited me to their. You might have seen the walkthrough of their warehouse. I was blown away by some of the stuff that they're doing here in Canada. They do have a United States presence, so basically anything over $250 is free shipping, and all their prices on their website are inclusive of tax. But the project itself for TitanToys.com, they basically have said, hey, we got a couple of figures that we think you'd like to take a look at. The first figure I took a look at this week was Ryu from Street Fighter and from Jada. If anybody hasn't actually played with those toys, oh my god, amazing figures for the price point. They're in and around $35 to $40, and they are in the same articulation level as like an SH Figure Arts figure. Not exactly to that level, but you'd expect this from like a Japanese import. You know what I mean? Like it's that good. But the big one that's coming up that I'm working with Jada is the Heat Boys Michelangelo. Now, this is something which I was expecting Mad Hatter to do a review on, but it's not cheap. This thing's like $300 Canadian. You know what I mean? It is not there's no way I could have afforded this thing myself. You know what I mean? And thanks to Titan Toys, I actually am in the process of reviewing this one toy. And I got to tell you, I was playing with it today. It is hard to get this in one video. I've actually had to split it up into 2 videos, maybe even 3 videos. No, it's probably going to be 2 videos, because the amount of stuff this guy comes with, and the fact that he's actually almost his entire frame is made of die-cast. So you remember back in the day, die-cast is such a lost art. This guy weighs a ton, and I mean a ton, and he's just everything about him. Like if you're into Gundam, or like an anime, if you're into Gundam, this is a turtle Gundam. He looks absolutely insane. And again, at the price point, there would be no way for me to even hold this guy. And now I'm actually doing a full review on it. And I want to give a huge shout out to Titan Toys for giving me that opportunity, because again, like I might be doing more projects for these guys in the future. So I just wanted to let your audience know that if you're into mecha, if you're into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, this is like the unification of both properties and into this amazing, figure. It's a Gundam turtle. You know what I mean? It literally is a mecha turtle. So that review is coming very, very soon. And I also have a few other smaller reviews with Titan Toys for Ryu, and for Stellara from Sectors, which is very exciting, right? And I'm again a wonderful opportunity through this company, Titan Toys. So if you guys are interested, definitely come check that out on the channel. I'll have those up within the next week or so. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And didn't you create? Maybe I'm remembering. Didn't you create another channel as well? On YouTube?
I have three channels. Three other channels.
Wow.
They're like, so I have MJR Collector, which is my toy hunting channel, dedicated toy hunting channel.
Oh, yeah.
I went down south to Niagara and Buffalo this past a few weeks ago, and I'm cataloging my journey back down to the United States. I visited a couple Targets. I visited a couple of Ollie's. Ollie's was an eye opener. I don't know if you've ever been to Ollie's in your neck of the woods, but it was just like when you see it, the video, it literally, I can't believe I walked into Ollie's. I was like, what this place exists? Like, it's absolutely, you hear the rumors, right? But if you don't have one anywhere near you, you're never going to know. Right. I visited 2 Ollie's during this trip, and both of them just completely blew my mind. And not such in a good way. So take that as you will. But when you see it, you'll understand what's been happening with that. The other 2 channels are up and coming. One is a React channel. I'm working on a whole bunch of projects that was really slow to pick up, which is fine. It's a slow game, and I understand that. And the last one is a little bit more rooted. I mean, like, I'm experimenting with bargain hunting because I think people need bargains now. Yeah. It's hard to pay for food. It's hard to pay for rent. So I want to do my part and try and get people, at least in my neck of the woods in Canada, the awareness that, hey, this is a good deal. You check it out. You're going to save some money here. They have clearances at Costco. They have clearances here as well. So head over there, save some money, and don't spend money where you don't need to. Again, toys are fun, but you got to help people sometimes. You know what I mean? Like times are tough right now, and it's really important to bring awareness to that. And I think that's going to be a big thing. I don't know. I don't like that one is more of a pet project. I'm not really looking to, do anything special with that. I just want to get it out there and see if anybody can benefit from those types of things. And that one's going to be like an ongoing thing. Basically, whenever I go shopping, I'm basically just going to look around for deals in my local area and just tell, hey, check out your local Costco, check out your local Price Chopper, or check out this deal, check out that deal. Gas is going on, gas is rumored to go on sale at this time. Just those type of little quick hits that maybe people can save some money.
It's a nice thing. It really is. Hopefully you're successful with that. So
it's less about being successful and more about trying to get people a little bit more value, and
that's what I mean. You know what I mean? If you're bringing value to people and you're helping,
I hope so. Anyway, I hope so. It might not pan out, but if I can help a few people, it'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Well, that's a wrap all. We want to thank Jay for being on today. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you on.
It was a pleasure to be here, my friend.
Great. And thanks to all of you for listening or watching this podcast. And if you haven't checked it out, be sure to head over to Mega J Retro and all of his other YouTube channels and support all of Jay's awesome content there. And if you enjoyed this show, please show us your support by subscribing to our streams, our channel. Please give us a like and a comment below where able. And you can always drop us a line too by sending us an email to foreternia@gmail.com. We really do appreciate the feedback. And as always, visit us at foreternia.com for all the latest updates and news, as well as links to our social media pages like X, Facebook, and Instagram that can help you stay up to date with all the Masters of the Universe content. So that's it. We would like to thank you again for listening, and let the power return. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.